Hi there, it's Tracy Kiernan from stepbysteppainting.net, and this acrylic painting tutorial is going to show you how to paint a swallowtail butterfly on an 11 by 14 inch canvas. So I'm doing this on the 11 by 14, and this tutorial uses a traceable template. The traceable is linked to this video, and so what I'm going to demonstrate to you really quick is how to transfer this butterfly template to the canvas. I have a sheet of graphite paper facing shiny side down, and I'm going to position my butterfly. So you can get creative with the position of this. I'm actually going to off-center it slightly to the left. I want it to be kind of going a little bit at an angle to the left as well. But you can change the position of it if you want it centered, if you want it angled differently, and that's up to you. So basically, what you do is it's best to trace this flat on the canvas, but you're basically just tracing your lines, and then you lift up your template and you have the drawing ready to go. If you did not want to trace a butterfly and you'd rather draw it instead, you can draw it. I can link a couple how to draw butterfly tutorials in this video tutorial as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the painting part, and I'm going to do the background first. So this background is a dark background, and it consists of three colors: Dioxazine Purple, Phthalo Blue, and Titanium White. I'll also be using a 3/4 inch flat wash brush to do the background. So the first thing that you want to do is dip your flat brush in the water and kind of tap it dry. I like to use a little bit of that water to thin the paint down just slightly, especially if I'm painting backgrounds, because I want that paint layer to be a little bit thinner and flow nicely so it doesn't take me forever to fill the background up. So we're going to start at the top, and the sky background is a little bit darker at the top, and it gets a little bit lighter towards the bottom of the painting. So we're going to mix about 3 parts blue, 1 part purple, and we're going to start at the top, and we're going to do like little expressive strokes. So just kind of painting X's, kind of flip-flopping the brush to blend the blue and the purple. The blue and the purple are very similar to each other. They'll blend nicely. So if you want it to be a little bit more purple, you could add more purple to your brush, versus if you wanted it to be a little bit more blue, you can add more blue. So I'm going to just take those two and go down a little bit past halfway. I'm going to go around the wings as much as possible. I'll be using the round brush to cut in much closer to the butterfly drawing, but for now I just want to fill up the larger areas first. So when I go to reload, I'm actually grabbing some more purple towards the middle. So it's a little bit more indigo bluish purple at the top to more of the purple in the middle. And we will be incorporating that white towards the bottom. So that is up to you. If you want to just make it equal blue and purple amounts, you can do it that way as well. So we're going to go to about a little bit past halfway. And then without rinsing the brush, you'll be grabbing white on your brush. I'm just going to bring this down a little bit further, because when we blend, we want to have that paint there that we want to blend the white with. So without rinsing your brush, grab the white on the tip of your brush and apply it to the canvas. The white will blend with whatever blue and purple is left on your brush. Mine is pulling more of a blue down here, and that's okay. And you just want to do the same thing, just flip-flop your brush and blend that white up. And you can, on your palette, you can mix your purple and white to make a lighter color if that helps you, if you don't like the wet on wet blending thing. The bottom is not a pure white, it's just a lighter bluish purple color. And just grabbing that white, blending it up into your colors. And so your lighter part of your sky is towards the bottom, darker part is towards the top. Kind of a little bit of a galaxy style sky, because we'll be adding stars to this, and it's okay if our strokes are a little bit choppy. I'm going to show you a way that you can kind of smooth them out here in just a little bit. But one way to actually smooth them out is just to go back over your strokes and just kind of smooth them out. You want to work fast because the paint could be drying fast. So if I wanted to go back to the top and work that, it might be too late. but we could always go back in with another coat over that to help smooth out some of our rough strokes. Also, when we add the stars kind of disguise some of our choppy strokes too. It kind of makes it look more like a galaxy. So just get in as close as possible to your butterfly, and you can set your 3/4 wash aside and grab a round brush. This is a number 4 round brush, and I will be using this to cut in close to my butterfly wings. So I'm going to start at the top again with my blue and purple. And it helps if you had a teeny bit of water in there. You don't want it to be like watercolor consistency, because if it's too thin, it's just going to stand out against the wings and you're going to totally tell that, oh, you used the smaller brush right there and it's super thin. But the teeny bit of water helps with the flow to get in these really curvy areas. So you cut in and then you just kind of like angle it outwards with your brush to kind of blend those strokes back in with the rest of the bigger part of the background. So again, just try to match the color, but if you're not matching the color perfectly, that's okay. Our sky doesn't have to be perfect. It could be kind of a combination of all our colors, and they don't need to all blend perfectly. So take your time when you're doing this step. It's a little time consuming, but it's also very relaxing to use a round brush and do these curving strokes to paint the negative space around our butterfly. So I'm actually going to go silent for a bit while I finish this step. Like I said, if you're struggling with matching the colors again, that's okay. It doesn't have to match perfectly. And when we do the little stars and all the other things that are going to stand out with this painting, we're not even going to notice. You might find it helpful to actually still use your 3/4 flat. Just make sure it's not dripping, because we don't want to introduce too much water into this, but that can help with your strokes. So if you're doing your round and you're trying to blend it outwards, you can take your 3/4 flat and just kind of smooth them out to kind of make them look more like flat brush strokes and not round brush strokes. So if you want to have both of those brushes going, you're allowed to do that. Sometimes I paint with one brush in one hand and another brush in the other hand, and I don't think there's any rules about not painting with 2 brushes. This next thing that I'm going to do is going to help kind of make the bottom look a little bit prettier. So what I did was, with the 3/4 flat, mixed a lighter purple. So this is not just white, it's white mixed with purple and some of that blue on my palette. And I just want to lightly do some crisscross strokes down here just to make it a little bit feathery, kind of dry brush style, but also helps it blend a little bit. I'm not blending the paint that's already on the canvas because a lot of that is dry. I'm adding new paint to it very lightly, kind of crossing this up, making it a little bit lighter on the bottom. And I'm not doing it to the top part because I want to leave that top part dark, but it's almost like I'm smoothing the color out a little bit by adding a layer of dry brush on top of it. So kind of optional if you don't want to do that. If you feel that looks a little bit challenging or you don't want to mess up your background, you don't have to. There will be a layer of grass down here at the bottom that might be disguising a lot of the bottom of our painting, so keep that in mind as well. So then I'm going to do the Toothbrush Splatter Paint. So basically I use this old toothbrush and I apply a little bit of watered down white. You want to always test it out before applying it to the canvas because you don't want it too thick. You don't want the paint to be too thin because you don't want to mess up your background. So you get a good consistency of the white, and then you flick the brush and it creates little white specks all throughout. If you angle the brush differently, you get different like lines of stars. Maybe if you want it to look like a galaxy kind of going across Milky Way, that's up to you. But I just did kind of an even amount all throughout. So the little splatter stars, completely optional if you don't want to do this, or if you want to manually paint stars in your sky, you're welcome to do that. So you don't always have to copy everything that I do. You can go in creative directions with it. So next we're going to paint the butterfly. So I am loading my palette with two different yellows. I have a lighter yellow and a darker yellow. So the darker yellow is cadmium yellow medium hue, and the lighter one is cadmium yellow light hue. And I'm also going to load titanium white on the palette as well. The white is going to help us make a third yellow, which is even lighter. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start at the top of our wings, and then we're not worrying about where the black outlining thing is. We're just going to paint the wings solid yellow, but we're going to blend our yellow so that it's lighter at the top and gets darker in the middle part of our wings, and then it gets lighter again, and then it gets darker at the bottom. So we're going to do some blending here. The first thing we're going to do is mix the light yellow with the white, and it's going to make an even lighter yellow, so kind of a pale yellow color. And we're going to start at the top using our number 4 round brush, and we're going to you really want to make sure you are going all the way to the edge. There shouldn't be any gap of canvas showing through where our background is and where our butterfly wings start. It's okay if you go outside the lines a little bit, especially if you're like redefining your shape, or if you accidentally painted some of your background in the butterfly area. Because there's titanium white in this color, it should be opaque enough to kind of cover any mess ups from our background. So with the light pale yellow, we just did the top part of our wings kind of in a curved direction right at the top. And I'm going to go down about halfway with this. As I'm going down, I can grab more of that cad yellow light color, and I don't have to grab all of that. So I can grab more of the cad yellow light. So it's going to start gradually getting a little bit darker towards the middle. And then, so when you get to the bottom part of the top part of the wing, you want to grab your darker yellow. And so you see that there's a line right there that divides that middle part of the wing. So that part has a darker yellow, and we are going to blend it up into our lighter part of our wing. So blending it up into that by using wet on wet blending. So the dark yellow is going over our light yellow and it's blending it. And to blend it, you just want to take your round brush and just kind of brush over it several times, working that transition zone of that color and blending it up. So we have our wing and it's light to dark. Notice how I left some of that, the right edge open where that black is going to be. So you can decide to paint the entire area, or you can leave that black part open, or you can paint over some of it. So I painted over some of it. I know I'm going to paint that black later, so that's why I didn't paint all of it. But you want to make sure that the part where that yellow is supposed to be is all painted in, so we don't have to go back and redo it. So for the bottom part of our wing, it's going to be the same thing. So we can start over. If you want to rinse the brush, you can. Otherwise, you can wipe the brush off. It doesn't really matter. But you want to have that lighter part. See how it looks lighter than the middle part of the wing? So you need enough contrast there for that to look like that, because we're using that pale yellow again. And we're going to do the same thing, just painting curving strokes kind of going outwards. And then when you get to the bottom part, grab your deep yellow or your medium yellow and blend that up into that lighter yellow. So your yellow is dark on the bottom. So when we're done with the yellow part of the butterfly, we're going to do the middle part and our black outline. So you want to rinse off your 4-round brush and load your palette with Mars Black. And I'm going to start with the head. So I'm just doing the little oval shape for his head. And then I'll work my way down to the thorax and abdomen. So just outline your shape, paint it in. So we have kind of a curvy shape, so I just outline the shape, paint it in solid. And then you can start working on the border of the butterfly. So if you used the traceable template, it is divided for you where our black meets the yellow. So you can still see those pencil lines because I did yellow outside of my pencil lines, but I can still see where that division line is. So kind of the same thing, you really want to do the border of that as close as possible to the background. You don't want to leave any white gaps showing, and you're just using your round brush to do those curvy strokes, filling it in. It's easy if you do the outer part first, and then you can do kind of bigger strokes in larger areas. So the contouring strokes, it goes curvy in the direction of the shape. And this is just solid black. There's no blending or anything. In a later step, we'll add a little pop of white on the edge, but for now, it's just solid black. If you need to add little bits of water to your brush to help with the flow of this black, you can, because the black tends to be kind of a thick color, and just a teeny bit of water helps with the flow. You don't want it dripping, or you don't want it watercolor consistency. Changing the pressure of your brush. So if you want to go from thin to thick, you want to just kind of press lightly with your brush at first, and then you press down harder to create your thicker stroke. And you're just following that line around your butterfly. This is another step that takes quite a bit of time to do, but take your time. I find painting these curvy black strokes super relaxing, and I love the contrast of the black against the yellow. I did not mention this, but the top part of our wing, we have a very thin black line at the top. So that wasn't in the template, but I added that in there. So that line actually starts out a little bit thinner at the head, and then it gets thicker up to the upper right part of the wing and upper left. So then we're going to paint the stripes on our swallowtail. So the swallowtail butterflies, at least this tiger swallowtail butterfly, they have these stripes that look like tiger stripes. And this isn't on the template either, but it's very simple. There's 3 stripes on the top part of each side of the wings. I'm going to slightly water down my black a little bit better for control. And we're going to start by pressing hard, kind of wiggling the brush and releasing for it to come to a point. So that one hit to almost that midpoint line of the wing. I'm going to do it again. Press kind of hard. Wiggle your brush, let it go to a point. That one didn't go all the way down. The lines are not going vertical, they're kind of slanted, so that one looked more vertical. But the point is that it's thicker at the top and you release the pressure of the brush and it goes to a smaller point at the bottom. So I'm going to try to make this look symmetrical, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to mimic the 3 lines again on the opposite side. And I just found that if I turned my canvas upside down, I had a better angle to work with. Kind of the same thing. And start by pressing firmly with the brush, wiggling the brush, and then releasing it to go to a point. I'm going to do 2 more stripes, one on each side and in the middle under that middle line of the wing. Same technique, only this one looks like it's a little bit longer. So right in the center of the bottom of the wing on both of those wings. So that's it for the stripes. If you wanted to add more stripes, you're welcome to, but that's how I simplified this. I'm going to rinse this brush and dry, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of white outlining on the middle part of the butterfly, so the thorax and abdomen area. So I'm going to completely rinse this off and dry it and load it into some fresh titanium white. So I'm going to like squeeze the bristles because I want to make this be a very, very fine point brush. So this is going to be a very intricate decal. And then I'm going to go ahead and mix one of my yellows. It could be any of your yellows. I just grabbed the Cadmium yellow, mix that with the white. So it's kind of a yellow outline. And then just on the inside of the thorax abdomen area, I'm not outlining it. I'm doing this line on the inner part. So there's still a black part of the outline. It's just kind of an inner outline. And I'm doing that on both sides. This is going to provide some contrast with that area. Give it a little bit more detail. So I'm pressing very lightly with this brush, using just the very tip of that to create that fine line. You might find that the 4 round is too big and you might want to use a smaller brush like a 0 round or even a POSCA paint pen. If you wanted to try outlining with a yellow pen, you can do that. I also did like a little kind of curve line under the, I guess, the little segments of the body, abdomen, thorax area. Provides another little pop of contrast in that area. And then I also did white for the eyes, so 2 little kind of curvy strokes on each side of the head. So the eyes are going to be red, but I did a white layer first, and when that white dries, we're going to do red over it, so that red is going to pop and be very bright red. Next, I'm going to grab my black POSCA paint pen and I'm going to do some detailed work with the black pen. So there's a lot of intricate details that we can do with our paint pen, starting with the antennae. So we lost the drawing when we painted over, but that's okay. It's very simple drawing. So just a curved line, and at the very tip of it, we have kind of a thicker oval shape that's filled in. And then I'm going to do it again. So this one kind of like a curved diagonal line, a little thick oval line at the tip. And you can do this with the round brush, but I find using the paint pen definitely has more control in this situation. And then I did little stippleism, that means making little dots. So what I'm doing down here is I am dotting with the pen. So if you look at the final result of this, there's kind of like a faded area at the curved part of the wing. And that technique was achieved by doing little stippled dots. So it kind of makes it look like the yellow is blending with our black in that area. So basically all you do is do little black dots. So this takes a little bit of time. If you don't like the look of this, or you don't want to do this technique, or if you're trying to simplify this painting, you don't have to do this step. I'm just doing lots of little dots. There's a more concentration of dots towards the bottom part of the curve, and then it kind of has less of a concentration kind of going up the side of the wing. So I only did this on the bottom part of the wing. I did not do any stippleism at the top. So this does take quite a bit of time. Take your time, just keep going with it. The more little dots, the more effective it will look, and you can see how it's creating that faded look where our black is meshing in with our yellow. See how the dots curve towards the bottom and then get thinner up the wing. You want to make sure your stripes are dry before the next step, because we're going to be adding that vein texture onto our wings next, and I'm using the POSCA paint pen for this. So the trick with this technique is to hold your paint pen very lightly and loosely, to where when you do a continuous line, it's going to look almost like a dashed line because the line is very loose. I'm not pressing hard with the pen, I'm holding it very lightly. The tip of that pen is just barely brushing the canvas. So we're going to start with our first little loopy loop. And on the lower left part of the wing, I just did like a curve that kind of curves downwards, and then 4 little diagonal lines that stem out from that curve. So 3 and 4. So you're just holding that pen very lightly to where it's barely even touching the canvas, and that's going to create the effect that the veins are kind of very loose and subtle. If you want your lines to be more bolder, that's up to you, that you can press harder with your pen and you can certainly do bolder lines, but I like the look of these delicate, intricate lines. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to mirror this on this side. So a loop, and then 4 diagonal lines going outwards from it. So this part is just very lightly 1, 2, 3, 4. And if it's not perfectly symmetrical, that's okay. And then we're going to do the top one. So same thing. This one is actually going to be longer, more elongated. And I didn't go all the way down with it. It's almost like I did a hook. And then this one also has 4 little lines that go outwards. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the left side. So almost like you're drawing a hook. Like I said, if you wanted it to be a continuous, more of an oval line, you can do it that way. And then the 4 little lines that go outwards. So you can go into more details and add more vein texture if you want, but again, I decided to simplify it like this. It's enough to make it look very pretty and delicate, and we really don't need to do too many details to recognize that it is a swallowtail butterfly. So it's got some really pretty contrast and enough pattern to make the butterfly look very beautiful. Just a few more dots in there, and then swallowtail butterflies, well, this one in particular is going to have red eyes, but we're also going to do like little jeweled toned colors on the bottom part of the black wings. So what I did first was with the Pyrrole Red, I painted the eyes. So I just painted over the white with the eyes, and this is the number 4 round brush. And I also did like a little sort of curved shape on the bottom of both of those wings. So that Pyrrole Red should show up against the black. If you wanted to do a white layer first and then do the red over it, if you wanted that to look brighter, you can do it that way. And then I'm also going to do some Phthalo Blue and do little curvy shapes, strokes with the blue along the bottom part of the wing as well. I added white into that blue just because I wanted it to show up a little bit brighter. So I just did 3 little curved marks on that side of the wing, just enough little color to add a nice pop of color in that area. So again, 3 little curved lines on the right side of this wing. Next, I am going to demonstrate how I did the grass. So there's grass on the bottom of this painting that's kind of flowing up and around our butterfly. And I am using the color Hooker's Green Hue Permanent, and I'll be using this number 8 round brush. So it's a larger round brush than our number 4 round brush. And I'm going to start by painting our darker layer of grass first, and then I'm going to paint a lighter one on top of that, and then a lighter layer on top of that. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a dark green. So I'm going to take my Hooker's Green Hue Permanent on my palette, and I'm going to mix a little bit of red into it. That's going to make it dark. You don't want to do equal amounts because then it'll turn brown, but if you add a little bit of red into that, it'll make it a darker, more natural green. And then you can add a little bit of black into it as well. So this should be a very dark green, but it shouldn't be like black. It should be very, very dark green, so you should still see the green in it. And we're going to start by doing our grass blades. Remember, we're going to do several layers, so this does not have to be thick and solid, and we're going to do multiple layers so you don't have to worry about covering all of your sky up. And so I just do each grass blade by starting at the bottom and just kind of flicking my brush up. Start by pressing a little bit harder with this brush and then releasing the pressure very quickly, and that'll get your grass blade to go to more of a point. So just kind of flicking the brush up very quickly. And my grass is going to be shorter below the butterfly and taller around the butterfly. And also notice I'm grabbing little bits of water between loading my brush, so adding a teeny bit of water into your paint will help it flow. It's not going to flow and create that grass blade as easier if it was just kind of dry and thick. So then we're going to do our next layer, which is going to be a lighter color. So without rinsing the brush, I'm going to grab a chunk of the yellow. So this is that cad yellow medium color. I'm going to mix it all together. You should get a lighter version of the green. So if you needed to load your palette with more yellow, you can. So this is that Hooker's green color that had that little bit of red in there and a little bit of black. And I added cad yellow medium to it. And I added a teeny tiny bit of white. This is going to be our medium green. We'll make a lighter version of this green too after this. And a teeny bit of water just to thin it down a bit. And we're going to do our second layer. So this is the same painting technique for the grass, only it's just showing up lighter. This is going to create some depth and highlight in your grass blades. I'm just going over it. The goal is not to cover all that dark green up. The goal is to just let this be another layer. So a lot of dark green should still be showing through. So our third layer, we're going to grab some titanium white and mix that with our brush and that color on our palette so that it becomes a lighter tint of that color. A little bit of water in there for get that to flow. and doing this third layer. So there's not going to be as many grass blades that are this color because of how bright and white it is. We don't want to overpower this grass. We just want a few. So there should be mostly the dark green and the medium green and just a few of these lighter green colors. And if you wanted to, you can go back and grab some of your darker green and you can go back in and add some more darker green blades if you want to kind of darken those up a little bit. So that's what I'm doing here, going back in with my darker green. And that is it for our grass texture. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of white outlining on the edges of our butterfly along the black. It's going to help create some contrast because the background is so dark against the black outline of the butterfly. It doesn't show, it's not too bad where the lighter part is, but especially at the top where the darker part is. So what I'm doing with my foreground, now I'm doing this very loosely and I have the white right there at the tip. I don't want to outline the entire thing because then it would just look like I just outlined the butterfly and it's not going to look real or exciting. But I want to just loosely, just barely loosely outline the edges. It's going to give the shape of my butterfly a little bit more contrast, especially against the dark background, a little bit of pop, and just barely gliding on that canvas. It's not a thick or continuous line at all. So I'm only picking some areas to really outline. So especially right here with how dark that is, by loosely outlining this, I'm going to be able to see more of that shape. So down here at the tails, I don't have to outline the entire tail, so just maybe along one of the edges. Maybe over here at the top, where we have that top part of the black outline that gives it a little bit more pop in that area as well. So very loosely, I didn't even reload my brush for that, so it barely kind of ran out of paint, but that worked in my favor. So just wherever you think you need that little pop of white in there, it doesn't have to be continuous. So maybe above his head. I thought about adding some highlight to the antennae, but I decided that it would be too much in that area, so I left the antennae like they are now. I also added a little highlight on his eyes, so just a few, or just two little curved lines on each side of the eye gives it a pop of highlight. And just one little pop of white down here as well. The final thing we're going to do with this painting is add the firefly. So since it's becoming close to summer, I thought it would be fun to add some fireflies in this design, especially if it's kind of a night setting. So with the fireflies, we're going to utilize our yellow and white. So I'm mixing that cad yellow with the titanium white. So the way I do fireflies is I take my round brush, I apply it to the canvas, then I take my finger and I smear it outwards. So it needs to be glowing in the center, and then I take my round brush again and put a little white dot in the center. So just white on the tip of the brush and then just make a little white dot in the center. So that'll make your firefly look like it's glowing. So I'll go ahead and do this again. So just take your white/yellow, smear it out with your finger. I'm going to add more yellow to this. So this is the Cad Yellow Light. It works with either of those yellows. And smear it out. We don't want it to be too opaque. And then to do your little white dot in the center. So you're just going to repeat this technique all throughout your canvas. And a little white dot in the center. So have as many fireflies as you want, kind of all over wherever you want to add a firefly. There can be some up high, higher up in the sky area, or lower down in the grass area, kind of scattered throughout. And that is it. This is the conclusion of how to paint a swallowtail butterfly at night. You can sign your painting. I signed mine in the lower left part of the canvas with the POSCA pen. If you wanted to paint the sides of your canvas, it would look lovely with the blue or black on the side. But thanks for watching, and thanks for painting with me.